Hey y'all, it's Nancy, the Handy Scandy. Thanks for joining me for another crafty venture. Today we're doing another card hop with Handmade Happiness, and this one is all about going back to the basics. And that's a card that I made, and it looks like I made it in 1999 or something. So with going back to the basics, it's not so much about all the latest and greatest, all the new fun techniques. It's about the old fun techniques. It's about those wonderful products that we bought years and years ago that just sit kind of dormant, unused, but they're still wonderful. So going back to the basics, I went back to my basics, and that was Stampin' Up. So Stampin' Up was my first introduction to stamping, like so many of us, and I pulled out some of my old supplies. This background stamp is called Antique Cracking, and it is from 1998, y'all. 1998. And I have some that are even older. And so all the products actually that I'm using today are from Stampin' Up, and if any of them are still available, I'll list them and link them below. But this technique that I'm using here to do the background stamping is how we used to always do it when we had a bigger stamp. So you would lay the stamp down like that on the wood mount, because that's all we used to have. And you'd ink up the stamp and then put your paper on top of the stamp instead of the paper down first and then the stamp down on the paper. And you have to be careful, because you get one shot. And you don't want to mess that up. Now, heat embossing is an old school technique as well, even though it's still very, very popular today, and it never gets old. Watching that heat embossed powder come to life when it melts and it gets all smooth and glistening, and oh, that's just one of my favorite techniques of all time. So I am using my Hero Arts not back to basics, what is it called? Detail black embossing powder. And look at this. Again, everything old is new again, right? Because the crackle and the wood grain, isn't that all brand new again, quote unquote brand new? It's been around forever, and it's beautiful, and I'm so glad that I held on to this stamp. I love it. So I don't know if you can see there, but I actually shifted my paper a little bit when I was stamping it, and it's got kind of that double vision look. But by the time I'm done with the card, you don't see it. It's a non-issue altogether. But these two techniques, still very, very much new, even though they're back to basics. So here I was doing some ink blending around the edges to give it that grungy antique look, and then I remembered, oh wait, we didn't have blending tools back in the day. We just used like makeup sponges from the grocery store, and then we would just rub the edges of the paper right against the ink pad. So I went back to basics like that, and I got all inky. And then I pulled out my punches. I used 3 different punches. They are all from Stampin' Up. This daisy one is actually only a couple years old, and it might still be available. I know in recent years, like maybe the last 2 years, they came out with a smaller one to coordinate with that. Then I used a label punch, and I used a leafy punch, and you'll see them. I don't know if you noticed them on the card in the beginning, but you'll see them in the end. And the stamp set that I used is called Flourish Filigree. It's a clear mount stamp set. So again, it's relatively new in that it is from, I don't see a year on this one. I don't know, it's probably in the last 5 years. But this technique as well, where you take the stylus and rub it over your image to give it some texture and dimension and movement, that's again a relatively old one, but we don't use it anymore. But look at all that. Look at all that movement and dimension I got on those flowers, and it was so stinking easy. So I just layered them up with some liquid glue, mounted them on there. You can see the little leaves tucked inside, and the Sending Thankful Thoughts is from that stamp set, and I punched it out with that label punch. Boom! Back to basics, and the card's done. Y'all, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell, leave a comment down below, and hop along and see all the other back to basics inspiration on this card hop. Thanks guys for joining me for another crafty venture. See you soon. Bye.